Okay, so I'll call the meeting to order on the date, which is August 28th. September 28th.
Anybody hear me?
Great start. Okay,
Yep.
and I want to welcome new members, except that I have to be honest,
Still
I haven't been that
here.
involved. He can't
We
hear.
can hear you, Ken. We can hear you.
Can you say? He can't.
You can't hear us? Can you hear us? Oh, okay, so he can't hear us. Check your computer.
Come back.
Wait a minute, we can hear you a little bit. Talk some more.
Can't hear you, so he doesn't know. Wait, hold on.
He's going out again and coming back.
I was going to say, you might want to try rebooting.
Oh, all right. Sometimes. Okay, so in this committee, we need 2 more people, did you say?
One more.
1 more person. And you have some people that are interested?
No. What I'll do is tomorrow night at the select board meeting, I'll bring up that we're looking for 1 more member. So hopefully we can entice somebody to come. If you know anybody that's interested, ideally somebody with business or finance, but if they don't have it, I've always said finance committee is a great way to start out learning about the town.
Right. So I'm still the chair at the moment, huh? So
Sure.
new members. So like I said, am I a new member or I'm old because I was in that last one?
I would say you're neither new or old, Barbara. I would say you're current. It's still hard to be PC nowadays,
Very good.
Can you hear us?
Ken's
Okay.
still connecting to audio. Okay. Can you hear us, Ken?
You hear?
Welcome. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Never give up hope. Never give up.
Perfect.
Better.
Perfect.
So you were elected chair. You're on 4 committees. While you were gone, we did all of that.
Wait a minute. Wait. I just lost it again.
Go ahead,
Okay,
Barbara.
so we welcome our new members, and then we're going to do the election of officers. Try to do the election. I
Would you
have a
mind?
nomination to make.
Before we do that, would you mind just asking everybody to go around quickly and give a quick background? Because Mary and Rachel are new and they didn't hear about you and Ken the first time around. Just something brief, I would think.
All right, Ken.
Okay, I'm relatively new to Southampton. Been here just about 2 years. I'm a retired community banker. Live at 51 Coleman Road.
What bank did you work for, Ken?
Well, I started off at the Country Bank in Shelburne Falls, then moved to Greenfield United Bank, then Bank of Boston, and Milford National Bank in Milford, Mass.
A lot of banks out there, huh?
Well, there were then, not so much now.
Good point.
So I'm Barbara Dunson-Borski. I've been in town about 16 years. I was at a meeting where they said they needed somebody for the finance committee. I was a teacher at Holyoke High School, and I taught stock market with the kids, and I love finance. So here I am. So welcome, Mary and Rachel.
Thank you.
Do you want to say something about yourselves, please?
Mary, do you want to go first, or I can go first? Doesn't matter.
You can go first, Rachel.
Okay. My name is Rachel Dion. I've been here for 10 years in Southampton. I am currently in banking. Wish I could be retired, but not yet. Really.
Wish for.
I did probably the first 20 years. I have my undergrad in accounting, so the first 20 years of my career I was spent in accounting, and the last 10 I've spent in banking, and I'm currently a credit risk officer at Polish National Credit Union. And I have 2 kids, one that's just got done of college and one that's in college. So got to work for a bit longer.
So you're poor for 4 more years anyways, right?
Yeah.
That's what I said when the kids went to college.
Yes.
Okay, so if we want to do the election of officers,
But we haven't heard from Mary yet.
We skipped Mary.
Mary.
A short background. Hi, I'm Mary Syriac. My husband and I have been residents since '96. I'm a retired federal civil servant with almost 37 years of credible service. I started with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and then I transferred over to the Air Force. During my career, I worked in contracting, so I'm aware of the federal acquisition regulations. I was also a resource advisor, budget analyst, and I retired as a group executive officer of a group that specializes, or the primary mission was base operating support. So I heard that the committee was looking for people to fill, and I thought maybe some of my experience would be useful. I know this is going to be a fun opportunity, and I'm looking forward to working with everyone.
Okay, I'll do a quick one too. John Martin, I've been in town, I guess 26 years now. When you have to put a number on it, it makes you feel old. I was with the University of Mass on the administrative and finance side. Retired last October, coming up on a year, but I'm actually still on the payroll doing consulting work, 10, 12 hours a week. So I enjoy that. And I've been in administration and finance, got my degrees in business and accounting. So I enjoy it too. And one thing, you're right, Mary, we got to have a little fun while we do this too, because if we can't have fun, it's just going to be.
Do it.
Accounting, I hate to say it because I'm in it too. Accounting is boring if you don't have fun with it, So I think that's the key. Ed?
Ed Gibson, I'm the town administrator. I've been here 2.5 years now. Before this, I was in Beckett as their town administrator, and before that, I was an elected official in West Springfield. I've got some small business background, 19 years in the hardware industry, and I've also got some large business background. Spent 3 years in Fortune 50 with Aetna in the finance end. And then I got into municipal government.
Ken?
I already did mine.
Oh. I'm losing it.
No.
So
Do you want to explain, Barbara, about the 3 positions that need to be filled for the finance committee?
well, I'm not really sure. There, like I said, I did read the book. I did read the stuff.
Okay.
But I think we need a chair, a vice chair, and a clerk. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yeah, you want me to quickly go through the
Yes, please.
basic duties?
Yes.
So we can get people to raise their hand. So the chair, obviously, is one that chairs the meeting, puts the agenda together, and is the main contact point between the finance committee and, say, the select board. Like the chair of the select board's main contact with the town administrator. So the chair runs the meeting, starts it, goes through the agenda items, goes through the public portion, and asks for public comment. And the vice chair, it's probably the best job if you want one of the jobs, because that backs up the chair when the chair is not able to do his or her duties. And the clerk is the one who takes the minutes down during the meeting, and then acts as a scribe, puts them together, sends it around to the committee for review. They vote on it for the next meeting, and once they're voted on, they're posted up to the town website. Now, Ed, do you post them up to the town website, or does the clerk have access to do that?
It can be set so like the clerk or the chair has access to do that.
Oh, okay. So one of the two are...
I have done that in an emergency, just like setting the, posting the agenda.
Okay.
I have a question. John, is there a time limit as to how soon after the meeting that the minutes have to be completed?
Technically, no, but you want to put them up as soon as possible because people want to read them. I mean, normally during a meeting for the finance committee, it's held in the second floor of the town hall, and we record it. It's not a live feed, but it's a recording that then gets posted up by Easthampton Cable so people can see it. We're not recording these meetings, or are we, Ed?
Yes, we
Yeah,
are.
I guess we are. It says record. Yeah, so these are being recorded, so these will go up too. So the minutes can be, they don't have to be terribly in-depth. They're just highlighted minutes, in my opinion. And if people want a lot of detail, it's right there on the video.
And the other
So within a couple of weeks.
Oh, I'm sorry. Another question I have is, so the clerk or secretary would actually draft the minutes, and then all committee members review prior to they being signed by the recorder? Or
No,
they're approved at the next meeting, or they're approved prior to?
Okay, ideally, let's say the meetings are every 2 weeks during budget season. So this meeting, you would take the minutes down, you would do the draft, you would send it to all the committee members before the next meeting. It's on the agenda for the next meeting. You review them at the next meeting, make any corrections that are needed, then vote on them. And once they're voted on, then they can be posted. So you're at least 2 meetings away usually when you post. Does that answer that?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I would like, can I nominate someone now?
Sure.
Is that appropriate?
Sure.
Okay, so I nominate Mary for record keeper, secretary, whatever it's called, clerk?
Clerk.
Clerk. If somebody wants to second?
Second.
Okay, does anyone else want to be part of it or be voted on?
Well, now after a second, then you have a discussion period in case anybody has any comments.
Okay, anyone have any comments? Thank you.
No.
All right, then all in favor? Aye.
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 It's got to be a roll call vote since we're in Zoom meetings. So basically, state your name and then aye or nay.
Okay. Rachel?
Rachel, aye.
John? Oh,
I don't vote. Yeah.
Oh. Ken?
Aye.
Barbara, aye.
Can I vote on myself?
You can, or you can abstain. Whatever you want to do.
Syriac, aye.
Okay, so just question, Mary, do you want to start taking the minutes as of now?
Yes.
Okay, she's got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we need to get a chair. So Rachel, would you like to be nominated for chair? I'd like to nominate you for chair.
I was so hoping for the vice chair, to be honest.
I just can't do it.
I know.
Yeah, so does anybody want to be chair? Ken, are you interested, or Barbara? Or?
I'm not. I can't.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
Oh,
I'll do it.
wonderful. So I nominate Ken for the chair. Somebody want to second it?
I second.
Okay. And now what do we do, John?
Roll call vote.
Roll call, please. Barbara Szymborski, aye.
Rachel Dion, aye.
Mary Syriac, aye.
You want to vote for yourself, Ken?
Sure, why not?
All right. All right. And I say all in favor? You can see I'm not good at this, you guys.
Well, you already did that. The roll call vote was in favor.
Okay.
And there's nobody left, so you can't ask who's opposed. Basically, who's in favor, and they do a roll call. Who's opposed, you do a roll call.
Okay.
That's it, yeah. So you got a 4-0 vote.
All righty. So vice chair. John?
Again, I'm just a liaison.
You can't, right.
No.
Okay, so there's only 4 of us here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right. And you kind of narrowed it down, Barbara, and I think I heard a volunteer before.
Yes, I was going to say that.
Rachel. I nominate Rachel
I thought we just nominated her.
for vice chair.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, we did Ken for chair.
Right.
Oh, great. oh God, somebody do this, please. I can't do it. I'm not,
Well, actually, Ken, you're the chair now, so
Right.
you can do that.
All right.
okay.
Okay, so we have a motion to elect Rachel as vice chair.
Motion.
I guess we'll now take a roll call vote.
Did somebody second it?
I don't know, did we get
I
a
need a second.
All right, I guess we didn't get a second. Do we hear a second for Rachel's nomination?
I
Is
don't
there
know.
a second?
Well, I said I nominated her, so somebody has to second it, right?
Need a second. Yeah.
One of you want
I
to second?
nominated her. Barbara, you nominated her. If you nominated her, I'll second it.
It's just before we go, Mary, are you taking the names down of the people who
Yes.
nominated in second? Cool, thank you.
So far, so good.
Okay.
Okay,
Now
so
take a
we'll do a roll call now, right?
now take a
Or do
roll
we-
call.
Roll call?
Mary?
All right.
Mary?
Chris Syriac, aye.
Rachel? I'm going to vote.
Aye.
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 Barbara?
Aye.
All right. And Ken? Aye. So we have a unanimous vote.
Well, thank
Rachel
you
is the
all.
vice chair.
All right.
Thank you.
Now, Ken, you're going to continue.
Yes. All right. So all of the officers have been so elected and so noted. We move on to item 4, which is public comment.
Can I interrupt just a moment, Ken?
Sure.
I'm not going to be a pain in the butt, but I was wondering with the format that we have, I had talked to Ed earlier, and he had indicated that, this isn't, a set in stone format, that we have some flexibility. And I was thinking with regards to the flow of information, if perhaps we can move some of the items around. For instance, after we have the public comment, my thought was to have the review of the minutes from the prior meeting, followed by the status report of funds. If we do those two at this time, it'll kind of be a good flow when we go into departmental requests and other items with regards to financial matters.
Okay.
You folks can set up the agenda any way you want.
All right. Is there any discussion?
I agree with Mary. I think it sounds like a good plan.
That works.
All right. So we're going from, well, election of officers obviously won't be on the agenda every time. So we would go to a review of the minutes and then to the financials.
You would actually start with the call to order. Then we'd go to public comment. And then after that would be the approval of minutes from the prior meeting. And immediately after that, we would review the status of funds, which then would give us a clear financial picture of where we stand before we start reviewing departmental requests.
What number is the fund thing now?
It's under new business.
Okay, I see it.
If I can make a suggestion, that's something you can, between now and the next meeting, you guys, list out what you want, Mary, send it to Ken and kind of work it out. You guys can't make a decision, 3 of you or more, when you're not at a public meeting, because that's against the public meeting laws. But you and Ken can talk about the order of putting the agenda and all that without any issue. It's just a suggested, this is how we'd like to see it, bring it up for the next meeting, and you'll be all set. Just one caution, at least in my mind, and Ed may have some, depending on where you put the public comments, and I'll be honest with you, the public doesn't show up much at the finance committee meetings, but if they have a comment on something down below, they may say, well, I want to talk about the revenue and expense, and it's 3 items below the public comment. So you may have to, change depending on who's here, but it's never going to be perfect.
And then with regards to your recommendation, I was also looking at since it's a new committee and we're a new team being formed, I was thinking perhaps we actually should look at some ground rules, rules of engagement for the committee, as well as perhaps a short mission statement. Is that something that I should talk with Ken about and the team, put together something and then discuss it at the meeting?
Yeah, Ken being the chair, you should bring it up to him and discuss it, and he can put it on an agenda. If you guys have a draft or whatever, just put it on the agenda for discussion. Just don't want to do it outside the meetings with 3 or more members, because that's technically a meeting of a public body outside a public meeting.
Right. So
Boy, people get picky.
it could be discussed
Right.
and then be part of the agenda for further discussion on a formal basis of the committee.
Yeah, just can't make any decision. I mean, some people say the select board, 3 of us can't be in the same meeting at the same time, which is not accurate. As long as you're not discussing town business, you're discussing that particular, committee. So
Right.
some people get real picky on it, but we just want to be careful.
Right. All right. Any further discussion?
No.
All right.
And
And
public comment, sorry, Ken, public comment, there's nobody here from the public. You'd see them on the Zoom meeting if somebody was here, so there's nobody here for public comment.
Okay.
yeah, I guess that was going to be my next question, was what is the source of public comment? I mean, is
Well, on a
it
Zoom meeting,
is it from somebody that's
sorry.
actually viewing this meeting or having viewed
Right.
the previous meeting?
yeah, they can send in an email. If anybody wants to send in an email, they should send it to the chair. Like, I have a question about this meeting or about this financial issue. And then during public, actually, there should be, I don't know if it's on here, Ed. Did we put on here? On the select board, we just recently added review of any mailed in or emailed comments or something like that. Remember the term that we used, Ed?
Correspondence.
Correspondence. Okay, so if in the agenda, if you add a line for correspondence, so if anybody sends in an email to you folks, it can be read at the next finance committee meeting officially.
And that,
So Mary, you figure out what you want as your suggestion, and then you send it over to Ken. And then Ken presents it at the next meeting?
Yeah, I mean, you can send it to everybody. It's just that you can't vote on it. I would send it to everybody, just saying, here's what I'm thinking of. Let's discuss at the next meeting.
Okay.
and then with regards to the public comment portion, is that also the time that we would look at any written correspondence, emails, et cetera, that the board received?
Well, that's what I was just saying. You should probably add a bullet just for correspondence.
A separate one for written? A separate one?
Correspondence, yeah. We just did that on the select board.
All right. Well, I guess you could say it's redundant, but correspondence and public comments, I guess, would pretty much be the same. But anyways.
Yeah, whatever you decide, yeah.
No. Okay. Then I guess, you mentioned something about email. How would they send emails? Not personal. They don't have our personal email.
No, Ed, go ahead.
There's a finance committee email address, and that basically usually it's the chair that checks that.
Okay.
And I can hook you up with that email address and the password, so you'll be able to check it, Ken.
All right.
So just a suggestion, I'd give it to Rachel also as a vice chair in case Ken can't do it.
All right.
Sure.
Yep. All right. Then I guess that moves us along to item 5, review department requests. If any, are there any?
No, none that I saw. Ed? Okay.
No.
All right, and those would come to whom?
To you as the chair.
Correct.
So these all right, so these are issues that come directly to us, not to perhaps the board and then passed to the finance committee.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Number 6,
Can we back up a second? Because this is maybe what it's referring to. Department requests. There's a reserve fund out there in the budget, a line item. Did we fund that this year, or is that?
That's at zero.
It's a zero. Okay. Well, it used to be funded. When I first started on the finance committee, it was actually $50,000, and it's gone down because of the budget now. But the reserve fund is an amount of money that is strictly doled out by the finance committee. Nobody else has any say over it. So departments would come to you with a written request. There's a form out there that says, I didn't realize this was going to be in my budget. I need $500 for this, this, and the other thing. And you folks would talk about it and decide. And historically, a lot of times in the past, people would want money for real good reasons, and the finance committee would fund it. And other times they'd come and say, oh, you know, I forgot about this. Some people don't do their job well with budgeting. So the finance committee would say, you got to take it from another line item. You got to live within your budget. We're not just going to dole out the money because, you know, you made a mistake or forgot. So it's strictly up to the finance committee to decide what to do with that money.
Okay, where does the finance committee get that money?
Yeah, right.
Well, in the budget process. In the budget process. So this year, as you know, the budget was cut so drastically, the reserve fund was cut entirely. So people have to live within their budgets. There's no slush fund, if you will, with the finance committee.
So when's the next date that we would inherit some money?
If we get a landfall or windfall from the governor, or, you know, with some money coming in, some could be allocated there by the select board. Otherwise, next budget season, which doesn't start until July 1 of next year.
Right.
So don't hope for any large amount of money soon. I guess it's the best way Ed, to put it.
So John, if we were to receive some type of department request as the finance committee at this point, at this juncture, would we review it and then perhaps recommend to the board that this came through and we felt that it was something that maybe they could, if they had a placeholder for it? Or is it, we probably won't receive anything from the department request at this juncture? Or we just plain out tell them we don't have the funding at this time?
Yeah, well, there's no funding. I mean, I guess you could look at it and think it was very important and go to the select board saying, we would like to help, you know, we'd like you to look and see if there's some money somewhere that you could help out because of this reason. Mm-hmm. You could do that.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know where the money would be right now, but it doesn't hurt to ask because, you know, the financial picture changes, you know, I don't want to say daily, but.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure that I understand this. Department requests will pertain only to the reserve fund.
No, not necessarily. It just made me think of that, Ken. That's all.
Oh, all right. Okay. All right. Any other questions or discussion on that item?
No.
All right. If not, let's move to 6. Review personnel change forms and personnel requisition forms. I guess there's an indication that there are none.
Now, Ed, do you mind explaining the PQB process for the committee? I've been talking too much.
And actually, I need to update that line because the requirement for personnel change forms to be approved by the finance committee has been eliminated. It's basically PPD and select board now. However, a PRF, personal requisition form, is that when someone wants to actually hire someone and post that job to be filled, that PRF would start off with the PPBB for their approval. Then it would need to be approved by the finance committee to move ahead and fill that and post that position. And then it would also require the select board's approval.
And basically, you'd be concerned whether there's funding in that department to fill that request.
Right. Okay.
Ken, Mary's got her hand up.
I'm sorry. I was looking down. Yes, Mary.
I just have a quick observation, if you will. I noticed on the website there's an actual audit from August of 2014, and it's from the Division of Local Services, and in it, it specifies that the PRFs, is this what's this? I forgot the acronym, both the personnel change forms and the personnel requisition forms, the state was recommending that not go through the finance department, because in essence it's kind of a duplication of effort, because it goes through the PPB process and then the town accountant signs off on the document. So going to the finance department is kind of like a what do I want to say, a duplication of effort, because the money, we don't know how much has been spent out of that salary account. So they were saying that it's not necessary. They view this as an administrative task that should not be done by the finance committee. Is the town saying that their preference is that it actually comes to the finance committee? And that's an audit report that people can take a look at. It's online, it's on the website, and it's from October 2014.
That's why the PCFs have been removed. However, the PRFs are required in the bylaw portion of that. Therefore, that actually needs to have a public hearing and be removed from the bylaw. So it's an official longer process that would need to happen if that was the case.
So because it's a law of the town, that's why we have to do it until that bylaw is changed.
Correct.
And there is a bylaw committee looking at all the bylaws to update them.
What, a bylaw committee by who?
A town bylaws committee.
Okay. Jen, everyone, here's the deal. I've made it very clear that I've never done this before, and I'm very interested, and I will learn as much as I can. But acronyms drive me totally crazy, because who knows what they stand for if you're just a greenie like me. So I would like to request that if you do an acronym on something, that you put either before or after the acronym what it stands for.
Okay.
Anybody agree with me?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
And that's why in the actual heading it says review personal change forms and personal requisition forms. Right. And then in the B below that, it uses the acronyms.
Right.
Oh, I didn't see that. Thank you. I guess you would have had to put it in parentheses next to it.
Right.
But the PPPB, is it the 3 P's and the B? Does that have a reference somewhere?
It does, and I can never get it right. Personal procedure or personal policy procedures board? John, which is it?
Personnel Policy and Procedures Board. Yeah.
There you go.
I got to tell you, Barbara, a quick story. When I started at the university, I came out of healthcare. So 20 years ago, we went into these meetings. We were converting our systems, and everybody was talking about SMEs, and they say, well, the SME would do this, the SME would do that, and I was too embarrassed to say, what's a SME? So I kept going on, writing it down until somebody said it was a subject matter expert. I wrote it down, and I never forgot it after that, but I didn't want to raise my hand, so it's glad that you did, you know.
Thank you.
I was a little too shy.
All right, any further discussion on that or those items in number 6?
No.
All right, then we'll move on to old business. Is there any old business? I don't recall anything that was pending.
No, there is not.
Right. Okay. And that brings on new business number 8, the special town meeting articles for review. Ed, do you want to take those? Or coordinate that, I guess?
Sure. The ones that we have that were so far are, and these are, other than the Article 8, which is the Wetlands Protection Bylaw, basically Articles 1 through 7 were actually submitted, and we're going to be put on the annual town meeting warrant, but because of the fact that trying to shorten the annual town meeting and shorten the time of personal contact, these articles were removed with the thought process of bringing them up at a special town meeting. So here it is, the fall, and looking to revisit those articles that were removed. So Article 1 is PEG access broadcast equipment for the town hall. And I will let you know that since I actually printed this, the dollar amount's been updated to reflect some cost changes and also add one piece of equipment. So it's to see if the town will vote to appropriate $50,000 from public, educational, and government PEG Access Capital Fund to the town's PEG Access designee. Easthampton Media to fund the replacement, upgrade, and installation of the PEG TV broadcasting, streaming, and recording equipment at the town hall, first floor meeting room, or take any other action relative thereto. So, as part of our contract with Charter Communications, they give us a dollar amount to be utilized towards capital equipment for broadcasting, recording purposes. That account is a little over $60,000 right now. And they will actually give us, I think it's another $50,000 in year 6 of this agreement, which is just a couple years away now. So what the board has been looking to do is replace the equipment, which is in the first floor meeting room, that is used for the audio and video broadcasting of not only the select board meetings, but planning board, conservation, and some others. So that's what this is for. It was originally done for, like I say, what would have been originally the Maytown meeting till it got delayed. So we had asked Easthampton Media to go back and take a look and make sure that none of the equipment costs, there were any inflation in it. So they went back and took a look at that, and they have also requested that they are able to replace the camera that they use to record the Norris school committee meetings be replaced. And they estimated that the camera would be about $750. So the two items that actually got updated in here were, it's $50,000, not the $47,895, and I changed the title to PEG Access Broadcast Equipment for the town, and cut out the town hall, because one piece will be used at Norris School.
Right. So these funds are already set aside in the capital fund, and this is just transferring them out?
It's actually a separate capital fund that can only be used for PEG access.
Oh, okay.
We get that from Charter, correct, Ed?
That's correct. Yeah, it's Charter Spectrum.
Yeah, part of our agreement with the
yeah.
cable company.
Yep.
Ed, you indicated that there's about $60,000 right now in that capital account?
There's a little over $60,000.
Okay. So does this require a formal approval by us, or an acknowledgement, or?
It would need a recommendation, a vote for recommendation, a vote for not recommended, or a vote for not in our purview. Since it's a dollar, in this case, a even though those funds are set aside for these purposes, it's money's being expended. So we would be looking for either a recommendation or a non-recommendation from the Finance Committee.
And just to add to what Ed says, if you're going to a town meeting, there's a handout with all the articles, and under each article, it would say Finance Committee recommends approval, Finance Committee does not recommend approval, or Finance Committee doesn't recommend at all because it's not really a financial issue. So the town residents, when they go to the town meeting, they see this on the article. So some may say, well, gee, why doesn't the Finance Committee recommend this? And somebody from the Finance Committee would get up and explain why they're not recommending it or why they're recommending it. So that holds some credibility at the town meeting for the votes.
Right. But I guess at some point, where is the fine line? You know, the Finance Committee is recommending the transfer of the dollars, but may not necessarily recommend the installation of the equipment. Or
well, in that case, if you don't think we should install the equipment, you're not recommending that we fund it. Right. That would be my take of that. So it would be not recommending. And when somebody says, why isn't the Finance Committee not recommending, you'd get up and say, we don't think this equipment is necessary. We just bought the same equipment 3 years ago. Why spend the additional money? Something like that, depending on what it was.
Right. Okay.
And that does, the voters take that into consideration at the town meeting when they vote. So it's important.
I have a question. How often do the upgrades to this system occur? You had mentioned this is the year 6 of the agreement. So did we upgrade prior to this occurrence?
Ed, you know the last time?
I've only been here 2.5 years.
Yeah.
I'm guessing this equipment is more than 10 years old. So I have.
Well, how would you check to find out how old it is?
Some of the equipment is newer, like we've got new monitors or new microphones during the process, which aren't really good if you listen to the select board meetings. They're the gooseneck microphones on there, and they don't work well. They have a range of like 6 to 9 inches. So they're trying to upgrade the speakers and the microphones and the back room equipment. And the select board has talked about this with the head of the Easthampton cable for quite a bit, and they've gone over everything that they want to replace. At least from the select board's point of view, it's all needed to make the system as modern as possible. And again, we can't use the money for anything else. This comes from charter cable to be used for these purposes. We could save it for later on. Do we lose any of it from year to year, Ed?
No, we would not.
Okay. So if we had a big project, we could save it, but this is upgrading the current equipment now and adding the ability, you said, Ed, at Norris.
Adding the camera to record those meetings at Norris also.
Right.
But even when I got here, there were a number of issues with the current system, and as far as the sound quality, the video quality, and some of those things were able to be addressed minutely along the way. So at least for the interim, it works better than it did. And some of the other considerations were when the system's upgraded, can it be upgraded so that when somebody does a PowerPoint presentation or something along those lines, rather than throwing it up and displaying it on the
screen? The
screen in the meeting room, and then having to photograph or video the screen, that it could automatically, Easthampton Media could automatically attach to the file in the projector and project that on the TV screen at home for a much better quality. So some of those items.
Well, with us moving into the new normal, that obviously is going to be more of a way of attending, attending meetings rather than in person, where people are going to.
Yeah, I personally believe even after COVID, we're going to be doing this a lot.
Yeah. So improved quality is, I think, probably going to be appreciated. That being the case, then we need to take a vote to either recommend, not recommend, or designate that it's not in our purview. Do I have a motion?
I motion to recommend approval for the PEG access broadcast equipment in the amount of $50,000 for the town.
Okay, so that is moved by Mary.
I second that recommendation.
All right, second by Rachel. Any further discussion? If not, do we need a roll call vote on this?
Yes, all votes while via Zoom meetings by state requirements have to be roll call.
Okay. All right, then let's go down individually here. Mary?
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well. Rachel?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous that the committee will recommend the article. All right, what's the next article?
The next article is funding for a Ford F-550 or equivalent for the Highway Department plow dump truck. And this is an article to not only purchase, but to borrow funding, which anytime you borrow funding, it's a 2/3 majority vote required. And this is also asking for it to be exempt from Proposition 2.5 as a debt exclusion. So we're asking for the ability to purchase the vehicle and borrow funds to pay for the vehicle, and then we're asking the registered voters to also approve at a ballot vote at an election this as a debt exclusion. Now, this is the truck that was just on the election on September 1st, so it's already met the ballot requirement. The ballot requirement as a debt exclusion is only a majority vote, but like I say, this at town meeting, because it is a borrowing, is required to pass by a 2/3 majority. Now, I will tell you that our highway department vehicles are so old and in such poor shape that originally the highway superintendent had actually requested 2 to be replaced for fiscal year 21. This one and also another large dump plow truck that actually requires a CDL driver's license to drive it. That one is $250,000. Due to the economic times we are in, we didn't think it was prudent, and we didn't think we may get an approval for even one if we put 2 on the town meeting ballot and on an election ballot. So we had asked the highway superintendent of which of the 2 would be their first priority to move forward with. So this was their choice to move forward with. And I will let you know that most of these vehicles actually get built. They are not just in stock, ready to come to municipalities, and that some of them, under normal circumstances, may take as long as 6 months to come to the town. because of COVID-19 and part sourcing. In many cases, including actually when we ordered a police cruiser, these are taking even longer than that. So I will let you know that at the May 2019 annual town meeting, it was approved to purchase, borrow, and as a debt exclusion, one of the larger dump trucks for $250,000. We still haven't received that vehicle because of the parts sourcing. So just to let you know, if you hear anything about, well, geez, didn't we approve a truck last year? Where's that one? Like I say, it is on order. It's basically here. At least the, shall we say, cabin chassis is here, but the sourcing of the items that go into the dump portion of the body were not readily available, so it's waiting to be upfitted with that.
Is the price locked in on that one, Ed?
Oh yeah, that's under contract. So no matter what, that has to be delivered for that price.
Okay.
And that was done by a public bid process, or did we do it through MHQ, remember? I forget, but it was done under the public laws. And if I remember correctly, ACT and Westfield got that, didn't they, Ed?
It's the
down the road on Route 10.
It's dealer right here on Route 10, but over in Westfield.
Yep.
Yeah, ACT. Yeah. Good company.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's nice that it stays local like that.
Right. All right. So the bid process has also been done for this, for number 2.
No.
No,
you cannot technically go out to bid until you actually have the funds or the approval of the funds.
Oh, okay.
So this is based off a quote.
Okay. So
I don't know.
There's no guarantee that these. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There's no guarantee that if these funds are not approved, that we're going to be able to buy it for that amount at this point.
We haven't gotten any indication that anything has increased enough that what was spec'd would not still be able to be purchased in under this amount.
Okay.
I don't know if any of you went to vote in person, but the old truck was parked outside the town hall with a note on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you got a chance to see it. It was good advertising by the highway department.
Yeah. And you didn't have to guess. There was a sign in the window.
I have a question. I guess I'm not understanding the debt exclusion. If this passes at the town meeting in October, the special town meeting in October, will the highway department then be able to go out and place an order, if you will, for the item, or does it go through a ballot process? The next stage is a ballot process. I'm confused on debt exclusion, what that means.
Debt exclusion requires 2 pieces. One, that it pass at town meeting, and one that it pass on an election ballot. This is actually, it's not the normal way we would do things. Normally, the town meeting would probably occur first, and then the election ballot would occur second. Because of the time frame we were in and how things were playing out, you can do it this way also. This truck for the $140,000 as a debt exclusion was on the September 1st ballot and did pass.
All right.
So now all it needs is the passage at the special town meeting.
Thank you.
And the difference between a Proposition 2.5 override and a Proposition 2.5 debt exclusion, even though they're both overrides, when you ask for a debt exclusion, it goes additionally on your tax rate over and above what the normal tax rate would be, but only stays on there till that debt is paid off. When you do a regular Proposition 2.5 override like we did back in 2018 for about $500,000, that override with that extra piece of the tax rate stays on that tax rate and the levy forever.
That begs my next question then. Has the calculation been done so the taxpayers, the town people will know in October what they would be looking at the increase in the tax levy, or what the average increase will be per household for, I don't know if this is a 10-year loan or how long we're going to be going for the loan? Has that been calculated where we would include it in the narrative? So
no, because that is a management decision, depending on what the tax, I won't say the tax, but what the interest rates are at the time we go out. We know it'll be longer than 5 years. Could it be 10? It might. Could be 9. Could be 11 or whatever. But that is a management right to choose that at the actual time of borrowing.
So
and the calculations were done, and I am going to say that I'm not going to quote them right now because I don't exactly remember what they were. And rather than misquoting and have to come back and say, oh, no, that was wrong, I will double check on that. And we usually do them per $100,000 of value rather than average house value, because there is a real good sway of home values here in Southampton. If I remember correctly, I'm thinking the average home value is somewhere around $325,000. However, we have homes that go for as much, $600,000, $700,000. So that was brought up a few years ago, actually, when we were doing the straight Proposition 2.5 override. So rather than being misleading and saying, okay, on an average home, this is what it's going to cost you per year, they did the quotations by $100,000 increments so that someone could actually take that and calculate out what it actually meant to them.
So we've been successful in the past with regards to debt exclusion, and the townspeople aren't saying, well, how much is this going to cost me? We've been successful with just a generic explanation, and they say, yeah, I'm good with it, and they pass it.
For equipment like this, in general, they have been. The straight Proposition 2.5 override from the analysis I had done back in 2018, from everything I can find, that was actually the very first straight Proposition 2.5 override that has passed in Southampton.
Yeah, it was. It was interesting. I'm going to add a little to what Ed said. We normally have a figure per thousand for the average house when we do these, even if we base it on 10 years. And if they go out for 9, they go out for 11, it'll change a little, but we give them some kind of number to hang their hat on, because you can't say nothing. I mean, I wouldn't vote for it unless I had an idea.
We include that in the narrative?
I don't think we include it in the narrative, but we have the answer because people always ask. If they don't ask, well, but they normally ask, how much is going to increase my taxes? And like Ed says, average house is $325. The tax rate, I don't know what it is, $17, $18 a thousand. You calculate it out for that. And then what your house is worth probably, so you quickly calculate what it'll cost you. I mean, it's very few dollars on something like this over, a 5 or 10 year period. It's when you get into the $5 million where you really want a number to hang it on it.
Ed, when you say management's decision, whom are you referring to? Is that select board?
I actually, while the select board has to sign the documents, it's usually a management recommendation to them for the length of term that is basically a joint recommendation from the town accountant, the collector, treasurer, the assessor, and myself.
Okay.
But rest assured that if it's a number that's way out of whack, we'll question it.
Oh,
but,
absolutely.
You know, they obviously know that they don't want to put a burden on the taxpayer too much. So.
Yeah, and basically the type of items that we look at when what we do is, and we use Unibank as our financial advisor. And then after that, bond counsel gets involved in this, obviously. But basically what we would do is, you know, once this is, you know, approved, and we're actually going to do the borrowing for it, is we would turn around to Unibank and say, okay, here's what we're looking to borrow. Would you give us some, you know, forecast for what that would look like for, and we might give them the idea of, you know, we'd like to see that for 7 years, 10 years, and 12 years. And they'll come back and do the forecast for us. And, you know, obviously what we're both looking for is, you know, two things. What's the dollar amount? How is that principal and interest going to match up to what we might be retiring in debt? But the other thing we're taking a look at, obviously, well, at least it's obvious to me from my background, is does there seem to be a large jump or a large incremental jump in the interest rates as you go further out, you know, from like, you know, is 7 to, you're going from 7 years to 10 years, you know, are they forecasting, oh, you know, that's, you know, 0.3, you know, percent more in interest, or all of a sudden are you seeing maybe 1.5 or, you know, 1.5% or 2% interest jump in that period? So we keep those things in mind also.
Hey, Ed, are you at the town hall in the meeting room?
I'm upstairs, and yes, the lights have gone off.
Seems like the lights went off, yeah.
They did.
Wave your hands.
I feel silly doing this here, but it's getting dark enough out now that I have to turn them back on because they're motion activated.
Well, you look silly, but we enjoy it, Ed.
Well, I always look silly. I know that.
Thanks.
Wondering if that had anything to do with the amount of interest we might be paying on the truck loan.
Lights.
Okay, so then I guess, is there any further discussion on this before we take it to a vote? Any other questions? All right, there being none, then do I hear a motion to either recommend, not recommend, or say it's not our issue? Is there a motion?
I almost feel like we, because it's gone in the opposite direction of where it normally would, you know, it was actually already voted on by individuals, that perhaps it's outside our purview now because the people have spoken and it's just a matter of doing the next step. So I'm not sure how much more validity it would have that we're recommending it. I don't know, what are other people's thoughts?
Well, it's a two-step process, and it has to pass both.
Okay.
To me, this is as pertinent as the ballot box.
Okay.
Yeah. And people want to know that it's been looked at by the finance committee and they feel comfortable or not comfortable. And, you know, which way you vote could sway the vote, which is fine. It's just, you know, do you think it's a reasonable use of funding? And if you do, you can support it. If you don't, then, you know, don't support it. But it definitely affects the finance committee because it is a financial burden on the town.
Right. And I guess sometimes that can get commingled with, you know, what's the life of it, of a vehicle. And is it how well has it been maintained, so forth and so on. And
Yeah.
I don't think the finance committee wants to get involved in that process, but that element comes into a decision ultimately.
Yeah.
So it's,
I mean, obviously when it's new, it has a warranty, but the highway department has their own mechanics and everything. They do all that they can once it's outside of warranty.
yep,
And they even do take care of the police cars, police cruisers too.
yep. But I agree with Rachel that it kind of has already been passed on. And then, so if that being the case, then I would think that probably a recommendation to vote in favor of a recommendation would be in order.
Yeah. I remember what Ed said at the, when the voters voted on it, it only took a majority. This is going to take a 2/3, right, Ed?
That's correct.
Yeah. So the tougher vote is coming up at the town meeting.
Right.
Yes.
Right. All right. Do we hear a motion? Not hearing a motion, I'll make one. I'll make that we recommend the article.
Second the motion.
All right, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not,
And while you're talking, excuse me, nobody should feel that they have to go along with a vote they don't agree with. If you don't agree, it's just go on record as not agreeing. Don't worry about what other people are saying. And I've seen that too many times where, everybody's voting, raise your hand. Just vote the way you really feel, and that's fine. That's why you're there.
right. Okay, that being said, we'll call the roll. Mary?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
I'm sorry?
Aye.
All right. And I will vote aye as well. So it is unanimous. Next article.
The next one is funding for replacement of the security system at Edwards Library for $5,800 from the Capital Stabilization Fund. And because this is going to be appropriated from one of our stabilization funds, we have the Capital Stabilization Fund. We also have an operating stabilization fund, but anytime funds are to be appropriated from those stabilization funds, it requires a 2/3 majority vote to approve them. So this will take a 2/3 majority vote also. And what came up is, and again, maybe not pertinent right now, but probably will start getting pertinent again as we get into hopefully late winter, early spring of next year, is the current security system at the library deals with the whole building. So the trustees meeting room is set up so that groups and organizations can utilize it for meetings when the library, it could be open, but it also could be closed. But with the current system, which is getting older, it's either on or off. This new system that they are looking to purchase would actually set up 2 different zones. So they could set the zone for in the library to still be active if, someone happened to, either break in or, get in if someone forgot to lock a door or what have you. So that would still activate. However, the foyer area with the meeting room could be set separately so that if a group or organization was coming in to utilize that meeting room, that zone could not be activated or would not be activated. So the group could come in and the library area was still protected. Then a couple of other items were brought up. there's been a few things that have happened outside the library, which isn't currently covered by the security system that's there. As far as cameras and whatever, there has been some vandalism to the outside lights in the parking lots. This would add some security cameras to visually look out and check the parking area in case anything happened out there as far as vandalism or anything else. And one could also be pointed down, I will say, the driveway entrance at Conan Park towards where the pavilion area is to incorporate that also.
Now, would there be any kind of connection with the funding for the Article 7? I was looking for the pickleball courts at Conan.
The pickleball courts would probably be further away than the cameras.
These cameras.
Yeah, might see. However, the cameras would definitely be able to, see or record a vehicle that, drove in at a certain time and, went to that back parking lot by the pavilion or what have you. So, I mean, if you did have some vandalism that, occurred, whether it be to the pavilion area, the tennis courts, or, the pickleball courts, you could go back and take a look and see, okay, this vandalism happened on, either Tuesday or Wednesday night. Let's see what we got for, vehicles that we might be able to see, come in at that particular time, how long that they might have remained out back, what have you.
Okay.
So how much are they asking for?
$5,800.
Ed, how much is in the account right now, the capital stabilization account?
I would have to go back and double check to make sure. I'm trying to remember if it was either $38,000 or $58,000. Hang on. You guys, you can keep talking about this or move on to the next one or whatever and catch me up when I get back. Let me go take a quick look and I should be able to give you pretty close or a much closer ballpark than I just did.
I think it sounds important and necessary myself.
It's a safety issue.
Yeah. So when he comes back, if it's within I'll recommend it.
Yeah, I seem to remember that balance was somewhere around the mid-50s, and it was maybe, I don't know, 25 or 30,000 that was voted at the special town meeting, I guess. But anyways, we'll know for sure. Any further comment?
No, I think it's a safety issue, and that's important.
All right. Well, we'll hold that in abeyance until he gets back with the balance. You want to move on to another?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at what I got in the email, and Article 4 is not complete. I don't know what you have there, but
Mine shows funding for a wide format scanner for the building department.
right.
The town will vote to transfer $7,000 from the capital stabilization fund to the building department capital budget to fund the purchase and installation of a wide format scanner or to take any other action relative thereto.
Okay. See, I didn't get all that. Mine cut off at the first sentence and then went on to Article 7.
Actually, Articles 3 through 5 are all designated from that capital stabilization fund. It's about 20 grand. It'll be interesting what the balance is in them.
Okay.
John, while we'll wait for Ed to get back. Can I ask a historical question from you? Is John still on?
I think he's muted.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I muted.
I have a question. Now, Ed had mentioned that these articles had been out there in May originally. Now, how did the finance, and was this presented, it must have been presented in some way, shape, or form to the finance committee at that time. It would have been nice to know how the members of the finance committee felt about these items at that time.
These, I don't believe, were presented to the Finance Committee because what was decided is not to put these on the town meeting at the time, because this was the first time we were doing it outside, and the recommendation was from the moderator as well as from the state is that you only do the articles that you really need to do, keep the meeting short so people don't congregate for a period of time. So we called them down and took these off. Some of them we took off, some of them came on since then. So there was no vote that I'm aware of by the finance on these. The select board went back and forth, like on the pickleball courts. Some people said, well, this needs to go through at the town meeting. And some of us said, pickleball courts are nice, but it doesn't need to go on that particular town meeting. But we put the town meeting together. I was on the committee, and knock on wood, it went off very well, and coordinated with all the departments and fire. Did any of you go to the town? Well, I know Ken was there at the town meeting, and Mary was there. So I think it went off very well, and hopefully this one will also go off. Although you may have to wear a sweater at this one, the moderator says, but a little chillier.
And maybe no flyover.
Well, yeah, that was good. They did a nice flyover. Timing was pretty good.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
I have a question, John. The items for the Capital Stabilization Fund, does the town have a 5-year plan for capital improvements?
If there is a capital improvement committee, Matt Rowland from the select board is the liaison with that committee, and they look at a 5-year rolling plan, and they recommend these articles be put on.
Now, is the budget and the plan presented to the town for their adoption and approval before we even start looking at warrant items?
Well, the budget is put forth.
I mean, the capital budget. Like, say for instance, I noticed at the annual town meeting, there was like over $100,000 coming out of stabilization, and then there was some loans also borrowing as part of the capital plan. So does the town typically have like a $200,000 budget that they look for every year for capital improvements?
Well, we have a capital stabilization and we have an operational stabilization. So each year out of free cash, the select board, I was on it, so within the last 5 or 6 years, we decided that free cash, X amount, I forget the percentage, so I may be wrong, but 30% goes to operational stabilization, 30 goes to capital stabilization, 10% goes to OPEB, which is an employee benefit program, and the rest goes in free cash. So every year we get free cash, it gets allocated that way. So depending on how much free cash we have every year, that determines how much we have in the stabilization accounts to spend.
So the town, when we prepare our budget, etc., the town doesn't have a placeholder, doesn't include, like $100,000 for capital improvements as part of a line item in the budget?
That is a line item in the budget. That's the capital stabilization fund, and that's what the capital improvement committee uses to determine how much of that they want to spend, how much they want to keep. And once they determine that, they look at all the requests on the 5-year plan, and they may take something and say, this department wants, say, this truck this year, but they don't think we can afford it, so they put it out 2 or 3 years. Then they present that to the select board to be put in articles for the town meetings.
So
that committee is the one that recommends it.
Is it a prioritized listing from the Capital Improvement Committee?
Yeah, it's prioritized.
They rack and stack them. Okay.
Yep, and they bring the departments in to discuss why they need it. And a lot of times, they don't necessarily, I won't say disagree, but they don't agree that we need this year. That can stay out for 3 years. The boiler at Hampshire Regional, for instance, that was kicked out a couple of years until this year. That was done a couple of years ago because, yeah, they said they needed it, but the condition was still working, and we could put that, $100,000 off, whatever it was. So that, yeah, they look at it. And the community members are on that committee as well as the select board liaison.
Now, does the finance committee play a part with the capital improvement committee? Do we?
Not unless you're on that. When we get to liaison assignments, and I'll tell you, I don't remember which committee we need finance liaisons from, but that would be a good one to bring up. If it's not on there, it would make sense to have a finance liaison on there.
Now, I'm sorry, that was for which one now?
Number 3.
No, I mean, your recommendation, Ed, what was, John?
I didn't make a recommendation. We were talking about.
You suggested about the finance liaison.
Liaison to the capital improvements committee. Ed, do you know if there is an official liaison from the finance to capital improvement?
I would have to go back and check. I don't believe so, but I could be wrong. I'll have to go back and check.
Okay. We were just talking about that when you were gone.
Yeah, my ears were burning. I know that's not what you're talking about. To answer the question, according to what we had after those the capital items that were put on the annual town meeting, there should be about $48,700 left in capital stabilization.
After all these articles?
No, after the annual town meeting, so available to fund these.
Okay.
And then just to go back one piece to the plow dump truck, just like to let the committee know that the one that's being replaced is a 1995 vehicle, and the actual normal useful life on these types of vehicles is basically 10 to 15 years. So, the highway department did an excellent job maintaining that and keeping it going.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay. Now, let's see, Mary, it was your question, right, as to what the balance was in the
capital account. What was the balance remaining?
Stabilization fund.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's the amount that would be there after all the stuff we've done tonight?
Or before?
Before. Yep.
Oh.
Okay. All right, that being said, any further discussion as to the specifics of Article 3 and the library's request for $5,800? The request for the library for $5,800.
Then can I make the recommendation?
Sure, make a motion, yep.
Motion, I make the motion that we give the library the security fund money they need.
Okay, and recommend the article then.
Recommend
right.
The article?
Right.
Which article? I'm terrible, I told you guys. I'm trying.
No, all right. So moved, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mary. Moved and seconded, any further discussion?
No.
All right, and the roll call. Mary?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
And I will vote aye. So it is unanimous. Moving right along to Article 4. Was the $7,000 frequent? Mary, you had the full.
It's funding for a wide format scanner for the building department. This is to see if the town will vote to transfer $7,000 from the Capital Stabilization Fund to the Building Department capital budget to fund the purchase and installation of a wide format scanner or take any other action relative thereto.
Okay. Any discussion? Any comments, Ed or John?
Yeah, just to let you know that this wouldn't only be used by the building department, but you know they do get a great deal of large, regular, dimensional architectural plans in that this would allow them to scan and have electronically in their records and be able to tie them to the building permits. For them, it could also be utilized and would also be utilized by our highway department, you know, whether that's for road acceptances of being able to scan those documents and having them done electronically, either going forward or the records that we, you know, have in the past. We could also scan some of the subdivision plans into the records. And if we've got actually anything in our archives for any departments of, you know, older or historical nature that is larger than a regular size document, it could also be utilized for those purposes.
And the good thing is, once they're scanned, they could be available to anybody anywhere that needs them, rather than having to go into the building office or the assessors and all that. Kind of brings us up to the 20th century.
Okay. Any further discussion? Questions?
No.
If not, do I hear a motion?
I move
I to recommend. Oh, sorry, Mary.
Rachel. Go.
All right.
Motion to recommend the Article 4 to transfer the $7,000 for the scanner.
Okay, moved by Rachel. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Mary. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion before we go to vote?
No.
All right. Call the roll. Mary?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
And I as I. So it's unanimous. Article 5, I do not have on my list here, so I'm going to beg that somebody tell us what it is.
Funding for replacement of 6 desktop PCs. See if the town will vote to transfer $7,600 from the Capital Stabilization Fund to the Town Hall IT capital budget to fund the purchase and installation of 6 desktop PCs and software and operating systems. I had actually originally requested 8 desktop PCs as part of the plan to replace our employees' desktops, which are now anywhere from probably 5 to 8 years old, and trying to do that on a rotating basis. We did get approval for, I believe it was 7 desktops in fiscal year 20, which we're just starting to expend that money. But the PC units we currently have are getting older, and looking to not only upgrade the PC units themselves, but the office software that's on them, and also what we currently have still has Windows 7 on it. So looking to have these with the new Windows 10 on them.
Okay, and I'm sorry, what was the amount, Ed?
$7,600.
7,600. Okay. Any questions, comments?
I have a question, Ken. Ed, does the town have a written IT policy?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure if we do or not.
I have a follow-on question. Have we thought about using laptops in lieu of PCs to give a little more flexibility?
To do what?
Have we looked at or thought about replacing with laptops versus PCs?
Well, one of the things we're actually going to look into and possibly the phase 2 of the CARES Act is getting some laptops for some department heads in case we have to go remotely again. But in general, useful life of a laptop is 3 years. Useful life of a desktop is 5 years. So, you know, as normal, shall we say, roll out, they aren't as cost efficient. So, but if we are able to get obviously some federal funding to put some of those laptops in addition to the desktop units in our department heads' ability to use, that would be a plus.
Thank you.
There's also more security issues with having a laptop as opposed to a desktop. It's a little bit easier to get away with a laptop as opposed to the desktop. They tend to be a little bit too bulky to get in your pocketbook.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. You usually when you end up at least using them in an office setting or whatever, you're also looking at some ability to lock them up some way so that they cannot walk away.
Yeah.
Okay.
I move to recommend the funding Article 5 for the replacement of desktops.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved by Rachel, seconded by Barbara. Any further discussion? If not, we'll call the roll. Mary?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
Aye. And aye. Okay, we are unanimous. Article 5. Article 6, I'll defer again as to the narrative because I don't have it.
This is transfer funding for election registration wages. See if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $3,500 to the election registration wage account. Said sum shall be taken from these accounts: $2,000 from the PEG programming account line, $500 from certification stipend account line, $500 from Board of Selectmen minutes account line, and $500 from the building department gas and plumbing expenses account line, or take any other action related thereto. And one of the things that we had to do that the IRS asked us to do during fiscal year 20 is that they identified that the pay for our election and registration workers, which was being done on a vendor payable warrant and as an expense, really should be in a wage account and paid on a W-2 rather than a 1099. So that was done during fiscal year 20 at a forget if it was done at a town meeting or through, I think it was done at a town meeting and not through end of the year transfer process. But that was done, and for whatever reason, when the fiscal year 21 budget was put together, Vicki, our town accountant, said that, you know, she and the town clerk had discussed a wage account for being around $5,000. But for whatever reason, when the numbers were sent through, it still had the old $1,000 amount in there. So that's what was approved at the annual town meeting. What is actually required is closer to $5,000. So we are looking to transfer from these other accounts to that election registration wage account $3,500 during fiscal year 21, because we do have to pay those election workers.
Okay.
And it doesn't add anything to the budget. It's just transferring funds within.
Correct.
All right. If there are no further questions or comments.
I actually have
Still going, darling.
That's all right.
The transfer out of the
Where are you now?
transfer out of the building department. Has that department head okayed?
Yeah, why don't you bring me in that table? It'd be nice.
One of his line items?
Yeah.
Yes, these are
Okay.
all accounts that, for a portion, and it can be due to COVID-19.
Excuse me.
These counts will not be expended for the amounts that were actually approved in there.
And plus with the building commissioner, we hired him recently and there was some additional funding, I believe, still sitting in there because we didn't have a full-time commissioner at the time.
Yeah, well, don't forget, this is for the expenses for gas and plumbing expenses.
Doesn't that come out of the building commissioner's line item?
No.
No? So I take back what I said. There's additional money in there, but can't be used for this, you're saying?
One other question I have, Ed. What's the certification stipend? What does that entail?
Certification stipend was funded at $3,000. Under state statute, if the town approves it, if the town accountant, the principal assessor, and the town clerk actually receive certain certifications which you have to take tests for, they would be eligible for receiving a $1,000 stipend during the year.
Thank you.
And currently, only one of those individuals actually has a certification. Doesn't mean that the others may actually take the test and pass during fiscal year 21 and be eligible for that. But again, during COVID-19, some of the tests are actually being not only, shall we say, delayed, but just canceled.
All right. Any other questions? Comments? If not, I hear a motion.
I motion to move to approve the transfer funding for election registration wages in the sum of $3,500.
Okay, moved by Mary. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Barbara. Any further discussion?
No.
That being the case, roll call. Mary?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
And I. Aye. All right. Move on to Article 7, for which I do have. This is a request to see if the town will transfer the sum of $115,000 from the Community Preservation Funds to the Park Commission for the construction of 2 new pickleball courts in Conan Park. Said funds to be transferred from Community Preservation surcharges, undesignated account, or take any other action relative thereto.
Could I ask a question about the pickleball court? How many people can play on that at the same time? I mean, either 1, 2? No idea.
No, a pickleball court you can basically play double, so you can play 4.
4 people?
2 on each side, correct.
4 per court. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And how many courts?
2.
2.
And we have 1 court there already, Ed, or 2 there?
Well, no, we have the tennis courts, which they have marked off one of the tennis courts, so they can also use it as a pickleball court.
Okay.
And let me do this so that I can do full disclosure. Let me see. I meant to do this when I was down checking on the capital stabilization balance. Let me go back and look at what the Finance Committee did on the CPC articles for the annual town meeting, because there have been times when, I think this may have been one of them, that I can't remember if they actually said because it's CPC, it wasn't in their purview, or if they did a recommendation, non-recommendation. So let me go take a quick look at that. I'll be right back up.
No, yeah. This may extend the meeting, but Community Preservation Committee, you all aware of the Community Preservation Act that established the Community Preservation Committee? So really, we don't have a say in these going forward to the town meeting or not. These go forward automatically because they come through the Community Preservation Committee. And they'll get up and they'll talk about them at the town meeting and vote on them. These funds are separate from the budget. We get them through that 3% surcharge on taxes every year through the Community Preservation Act. You'll hear people talking about CPC. That's actually the committee, and the CPA, Community Preservation Act, is what the funding comes through. So acronyms, Barb, there's two more for you.
Yeah, I was writing them down.
So the committee takes care of the money and decides where it goes, and it has to go to town meeting for a vote. The act is what brings the money into the town. And I'm talking with not a whole lot of memory of it, but I want to say that we get $350,000 a year, I believe, but don't hold me on that. We get quite a amount of money, and we borrowed against future CPA money to do some work. I believe it was at LaBrie Field, and we're paying it back each year for a set number of years.
Well, I don't want to sound like, I don't like sports, because I do, but that once you put those in, then is it additional money to maintain?
It's like a basketball court or a tennis court. Yeah, it's asphalt, and you've got a, what do you call it, like a tennis, what's the word I'm looking for, net, if you will. Just different paddles and I believe different balls, but pretty much the same. It started out as being for us older folks because it was easier on the body than tennis, but a lot of the young people, from what I'm hearing from some people who play it, are very interested in it. And this is phase one for the Park Commission. Phase two, they have a couple other courts put in that they want to get passed. And I believe that when that comes up initially, and that they wanted to take out a couple of the basketball courts and put in pickleball courts, but people, myself included, were against that, because to me, tennis, basketball, and pickleball bring families together, where if you just eliminate basketball, that's a lot of people play basketball. They bring their kids, they bring the adults. So to me, you got to have a mix. So, but they took that off the agenda for now, and they'll bring it up at some point in the future. And I don't know how they're going to present it.
And does the present court get a lot of activity?
Quite a bit, yeah. We even have a couple of members of the select board who go there and play a lot. It started in Norris in the gym. They started playing it. Got so popular that this came up, and the Park Commission decided to put a request into the CPC to get the funding.
So I guess I have a question. So 3% equates to $350,000 a year roughly, and that goes to the CPC, which then makes a determination as to where it's allocated.
It's allocated. CPC has 3 or 4 different funds, and I'm not going to remember them all. One's historic preservation, one's open space. I believe one is housing, and one general. Is that right, Ed?
Yeah, and one undesignated.
Undesignated.
And you have to put at least 10% of the funds into the open space, the housing, and the historical. And then the balance, which goes into the undesignated. If you just did the 10, 10, and 10, it leaves about 70%. So the undesignated fund, which can be used for any of those, is the one that usually builds up the most money.
At the last town meeting, some money was designated to put in the ramp at the church in the center of town for the food bank. And also, what was the other thing, Ed? I'm trying to think of.
For some of the foundation and roof work at the Clark Chapman House. Also got approved for to fund the clearing of the trails.
The trails.
Burst and the Manhan trail over here on East Street, and then also was approved for to be used for a 20% match. There was 20 or
some other trail work,
for some additional trail work to cover the town's required percentage match for a Mass Trails grant, which we received.
In the past, the little schoolhouse in Conant Park on Route 10 and Clark Street, the roof was put on there. So they don't go out as a habit of soliciting projects. People go to them saying, here's what we've got. They review them, vote on them, and decide.
And then the replacement roof on the Conant Park Pavilion, which was done last year, was also done with CPC funds.
Yep.
But the town meeting, the voters have to approve the transfers ultimately.
Yeah.
Is that a simple majority yet, or is it a 2/3? Remember?
Simple majority.
Okay.
And
I believe you may tell me different, but I believe in the past the finance committee hasn't taken any position on these.
You're correct. I just wanted to go back to the most recent and double check on that, because I think there was one year that they actually did vote on them. But this past August for the annual town meeting, the finance committee had voted that they would not do a recommendation, that it was not in their purview.
Okay. That being said, any further discussion? If none, do we hear a motion?
I move to indicate that this is not in our purview, the funding for the Park Commission to construct 2 new pickleball courts in Conant Park.
Okay.
I second.
I'll move by Mary, seconded by Rachel. Any further discussion? There being none, roll call. Mary?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
An aye is an aye. Okay. That is unanimous. Article 8 and all its length is relative to wetlands bylaws.
Hey, Ed, 25 words or less. Can you describe it?
Right.
Yes, I can. It's a bylaw. It has no financial value.
No. No, that makes it simple.
But other than that, just so you are aware.
I knew we couldn't get by that.
All right.
There's the Wetlands Protection Act in Massachusetts. However, towns can approve their own wetlands protection bylaw, which has to be stricter than the state requirement. And one of the reasons to do that is the fact that unless a town accepts its own wetlands protection bylaw, which is stricter than the state Rivers Protection Act, there are no means for putting any fines or teeth that allow the Conservation Commission to follow up on violations and get someone to conform and make those violations correct. So, you know, basically currently, okay, so if someone violates the Rivers Protection Act, the Conservation Commission can issue a violation order, hope that that individual or business then complies with that violation order. But they don't have an ability to say, okay, if you're not in compliance, you know, the fine is $100 a day or $200 a day or, you know, per week, to try to follow up and entice that property owner to come into compliance. So the only current, shall we say, you know, whether it's solution or process is to keep sending that individual that order and tell them they're not in compliance, and then finally, you know, go through the cost of actually going through the court system to get them to comply. So this gives them some intermediate ability to entice someone to comply before getting into that expensive and time-consuming, okay, we're going to file an order in the courts.
Okay. Any other discussion, questions, comments?
No.
All right, in that case, do I hear a motion? Okay. We either recommend this, not recommend, or it's not in our purview.
Okay, I'll go. I recommend that this is not in our purview, the Wetlands Protection Bylaw.
I second.
All right, so moved by Mary, seconded by Rachel. Any discussion prior to vote? If not, roll call. Mary?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
And Chair is aye. I believe those are all of the articles.
They are so far. I will tell you that the Select Board hasn't totally voted on this as of yet. There are 2 articles that departments asked to have considered that the Select Board will take up tomorrow night. One is a transfer of funds in the Treasurer Collector's office that would allow that office to reorganize to some extent and transfer the wages and salaries around to do that. And then there's a second one that's been brought forth by the Health Department asking to fund from free cash their Health Department expense account by adding $2,500 to it, which is part of the fiscal 21 budget process when the Select Board was trying to balance out the budget and come to equitable departmental reductions. That was part of it. It reduced a $3,000 expense account to $500. And that, I think they've only got a couple $100 left in there because that expense account would be what's utilized for whether it's toners for the printers, mileage for the health agent to go out and do soil inspections for Title V's or perks, or go out on other types of inspections, or mileage or training for the health director or the health agent themselves. So those are out there. I don't know what the board will do tomorrow night, if they authorize one or both of those to be on the special town meeting warrant. John and I will probably be in contact with the Finance Committee for another meeting to basically go over those and see if the Finance Committee wants to recommend, not recommend, or what have you on any additional articles.
Okay, so that would be at some point between now and October 10.
It would probably be some point that would probably be like probably the beginning of next week.
Okay. Okay. 8B is a review of fiscal year 2021 expenditures and revenues. Any particular action we have to take on those, or is that just for review, or?
It's just for your knowledge and review.
Yep.
Now, Ed, on those, can we ask the accountant to add the Finance Committee members to the distribution list for the revenue and expenditures? We get them on a, I'll say, a regular basis. You folks should get them directly rather than from us also.
I'll have to go back in and take a look at that distribution list. They may already be on it, but it could be going to FinCom email. Yeah. And if not, I'll see what I can do about adding the FinCom email. I had a hard time adding the select board to that list for some reason. I don't know if we've maxed out on the number of people on that distribution list or not.
I can't imagine that, but I would think it would be easier for the folks to get them directly to their emails rather than have to go somewhere to get them, or to have Ken redistribute them. But if you can find out and see if we could direct them individually to the members, that would be great. I'm assuming you folks would rather it that way?
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And how frequently is this analysis done?
Usually every couple of weeks. Whenever they run a payable warrant, they would usually update this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ed, I have a question. How are commitments reflected? Is there a report that shows what the current expenses are to date as well as commitments?
No. This is only expenses. It does not cover encumbrances.
Yeah, but it would give us, having that come up regularly would give us a sense as a finance committee what we're looking at.
It would give us a great sense. However, we are tied to the financial software system we have, the reports it does.
But I think once you get the reports regularly, you'll get a real good sense, especially on the expenditure side.
Yeah.
The revenues, drift in later than the expenses. But yeah, I use it all the time because you can really see, and it gives you a percentage of spend, actual versus budget. So you'll know if it's 6 months through the year, it should be roughly at 50%. If it's at 80%, you've got a question. What we like to do is get answers to the questions early in the budget rather than wait till the end of the year like it used to be and say, why'd you overspend? At that point, you can't do anything.
Right. Horses out of the barn. Yep.
Yep.
Question regarding 2 line items. The line item for the Finance Committee expenses is showing that we've already spent $180. Was that the prior committee expenses, or this 2020 expenses that are reflected in here?
We're in 2021 now. So that would reflect 2021.
It would have been the prior committee because we're already in 21, and I can tell you specifically that expenditure was for the Finance Committee dues to the State Finance Committee.
Speaking of which, Ed, I believe Ken and Barbara already got the Finance Committee link and everything for the handbook and all that. Can you send that out to Mary and Rachel?
I could. Will I?
Will you?
I was thinking of that today. Actually, I'll have to go back and find that link and send it to them.
Yeah, that way you can read the handbook. And
Yes. And another question, there's on the gas and electric for the town hall, it's showing that we're already 70% spent. Is that prior year expenses that haven't been reversed back to 2020?
no.
So
No, that one's even more complicated than that. We get credits for solar net metering credits, and we also get them for cow power. However, there's cow power, yes, exactly. But there's a very complicated system that goes along with that. Okay, we do get savings from it, but we get a bill for most of the credit from the company that we entered into the agreements with. We still save probably about maybe 10% when it's all said and done, but because of the complicated system, basically those bills actually show up into this one account before they get transferred out.
So we shouldn't be concerned with only $7,200 left for the remainder of the year?
No, because that's not an accurate. It's some of that has to get transferred out to the other separate accounts.
Who does that, Ed?
What's that?
Who transfers the stuff? When does it get balanced, so to speak?
The town accountant, Vicky, does.
Another question, I'm sorry, I don't mean to hog, I love numbers. The accounting software support, they spent more than they were authorized. So how do we fill that hole?
Basically, at the end of the year, we'll look at transferring funds to cover that, and the financial system here is SoftWrite. So you will look and see that, for example, that the assessor support and I think the treasurer collector support is a little bit underfunded for that same SoftWrite. So, but they each use different modules. So in May and June, we can transfer funds between departments and take care of that.
And then the last question I have, I promise, is when you're looking at the police department, their expenses, it's on page 2, the expenses and their maintenance, they've already overspent their budget for maintenance. They're in the hole for almost $500. And then they're almost 49% spent for their overall expenses. So is this an area we should be concerned with, that we're going to be short for the rest of the year?
Those I'm going to have to go take a look and see if they've been affected by the encumbrances from fiscal year 20 actually being spent and not transferred out.
Okay.
And a lot of times you have a service agreement that's due right up front. So you pay it, say, in July, and it eats up 100% of that budget line. So there's a lot of that you'll see, software, maintenance and all that. So that may be one of it. I got to say, though, the police chief, since he's been there, and even the one before him, have stuck right on budget. They really look at their budget and they maintain it well. We've got some good management of budgets in the large departments, and select board looks at it at least twice a month and gets reports. The fire chief, police chief, and all that come before us. I think it's every quarter, every 6 months, but they do a great job of maintaining it. And we always give them questions if there's an issue. So if you have questions, you could go back directly to the police chief or fire chief and introduce yourself and just ask questions if you wanted to, or you could do it through the chair. But they do a nice job of managing it. You'll see they very seldom go over budget total. When I manage my budgets, I'm less concerned about each individual line as I am the bottom line of the budget. If I've got $5 million to spend and one line's over 5,000, another one's under 10,000, to me, I'm doing fine because I'm managing the total process. I think that's how some of the departments work too.
We shouldn't be too concerned because I know at the annual town meeting, the people actually approved each of the line items for their budget. So if they go over that, there's no big deal that we can actually transfer money in even though it wasn't approved at the town meeting?
Well, you can transfer out except for wages. Make sure I've got this going right, Ed. You can't transfer out of wages into expenses except at the end of the year transfer, but you can do the other way around. Is that accurate, Ed?
No.
Did I get it backwards? You can't transfer. You can't transfer into it.
You can transfer into it at any time. You can actually transfer in and out at a town meeting, like we're doing at least in that election wage account. But you can only do departmental transfers, and they can go from expenses to wages or whatever. In May or June, that's the only time you can do them outside of a town meeting.
Town meeting, right. Expenses to wages. Yeah. But wages to expense you can do outside of a town meeting, correct?
No. May and June
I thought we could do that. Really? Okay, well.
No. Yep. No. The only thing that can be done besides that is, which we have a zero balance in, is the reserve fund. And that's at the discretion of the finance committee. That doesn't even need the select board's approval.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? If not, let's move on to number 9, approval of minutes from the previous finance committee meeting. I haven't seen any.
Who took them for the last one? I have to go back and look at my notes, but I forgot who took them for the last one. Okay, let's blame Ed. Did you take them for the last one, Ed?
I don't think so.
I don't either. I forget which of the other gentlemen took it. I can go back to who was the clerk? Do you remember, Barbara or Ken?
I don't.
Go back through my notes.
I'm looking at what was his name? I don't think he would have done it though.
Okay, we can go. Let's go back through our notes, but we may have to recreate the last minutes because the person's not here.
All right.
Was the last meeting? What was the date of the last meeting?
Hang on just a minute.
Wasn't Roy LaCourse, was it?
Ray or the no, I think it was a younger gentleman. And don't get offended when I say younger, because most people are younger than me at this point.
He gets offended.
So I made a note to see if I can look at the where the old minutes were. If we have to, we can recreate it. But going forward, Mary's going to have those all that, right, Mary?
Yes, sir.
Now, Ed, on the liaison reports, while Ken is gone, can you, and you may have them, can you dig up the liaison assignments for the finance committee? I have no clue what they are. And I don't know.
Other than I remember like the schools were one. I'll have to go back and look.
Maybe we look at. Yeah, maybe we look at the assignments that you just sent out for the select board and look at which of those would be relevant, you know?
Yeah, maybe but I'll go back and take a look. Yeah.
But I think it was Mary who said the capital improvement committee would make sense.
On the previous clerk was Adam.
Okay, Adam.
Yeah.
For you, that's good.
All right.
Maybe I've still got his email. I'll email him and see if he has them.
Okay. All right. And so we did 10. Any other necessary business?
Time to have a wine.
Next meeting?
Do we want to stay with Mondays, the first Mondays of the month?
I think this is now going to incorporate that being ready for the ATM. So how does that fit into with you, Ed and John?
I lost power on my headphones for about 5 seconds, so I didn't get the question.
The question is when we're going to schedule our next meeting, and I guess there was Mary's question was, establishing a regular frequency, but I guess I also added, we're going to have the concerns about the ATM. So
yeah.
Where do we go from there?
Normally, the finance committee has a meeting on a Monday before a select board meeting. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to be every time there's a select board meeting, but any paperwork that needs to get done, if you do it on a Monday, it could be forwarded to the select board through Ed for the next day. So they did that so it wouldn't hold up personal requests or anything like that. So I don't know.
Well, I have a thought. I think it would be important for us to determine a time, like let's say Monday, 5:30, and we just check in. Is there anything? There's not, then check out. As opposed to say, well, maybe we'll get some information or who knows what, I don't know. How does everybody else feel about that?
The only issue with that is under Robert's rules, it needs to be published out to the world that we're having a meeting within a certain time frame, and it allows people for the public to meet or offers the ability to go.
48 hours before, not counting Saturdays or Sundays or holidays.
But to follow up on what Barbara's saying, we could schedule the meetings, and if you need to cancel them, you can cancel them. And that'll take care of your proper notice, Rachel.
Okay.
And the Finance Committee has done that in the past, just so that there is a sequence to the meetings.
So it would be bi-weekly then on Mondays?
If you think bi-weekly right now during this process, it's a little slow right now, wouldn't you say, Ed? Normally in the summer and the early fall, there's not much going on, so it could be monthly. And if you needed to schedule another meeting in between, you do the 48-hour notice.
Yeah, and usually it's probably around late December or January that things pick up.
For the budget, yeah.
Now, who in the past has been... Who actually posts that on the website for the meetings? Who's responsible for them? For the advance notice?
Usually it's, whether it's the chair or the clerk or whoever's assigned to that. I have been doing it only because you've got to get used to the process and you actually need the credentials to do it. So, but usually it's the chair or the clerk.
Are you got a holiday that Monday, though?
Right.
So I guess you would say, Ed, the chair and the clerk work with you to figure out that process of posting?
Sure.
Okay. So just a suggestion, the town meeting's October, 17th? And
yes.
That's the Saturday. Do you want to schedule one for the 19th, which is the Monday after? And if there's anything, from the town meeting, you could discuss it then.
Well, all right. I'm sorry. So what did you say again, John? Before this would be the
town.
Because Monday the 12th is a holiday.
No, the town meeting is the 17th.
Right.
So if you do it the 19th, that's after the town meeting. So anything that comes up before the town meeting, at the town meeting, you could discuss. Ed, do you think there's anything before the town meeting that they'll need to discuss?
I'll know better tomorrow night.
Yeah, I thought Ed said that there might be something.
Yeah, and if there is, I can take care of doing a quick posting and a very generic agenda on Wednesday to cover that for like Monday night at 5:30.
All right, so why don't we set a meeting for October 19th, that Monday, with a caveat that there might be a need for an additional meeting prior to that, based on any feedback from you.
That makes sense.
All right, so next regularly scheduled meeting would be October 19th. Is everybody in favor of keeping the 5:30 time line?
About 5 o'clock.
Yeah,
It's fine.
fine.
And hopefully they won't continue to run as long as this.
Don't
You know,
go.
Ken, that's in your control now.
No, I know. I understand. The buck stops here, right?
Oh, by the way, you don't get any bucks.
Oh, darn.
the select
Gee, I
board,
thought I
yeah.
was getting big bucks.
All right, so we are at number 13. Do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Oh, I have one quick question.
Yes.
If some of us can find someone to go on the finance board, they have to go in and get sworn in, or do you introduce them to us, or how does it work?
They have to be sworn in, I believe.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
it's gotta-
We'd also have to be appointed by the select board.
All right.
Oh, all right.
So they should go to Ed and do an application, correct, Ed?
Correct.
Well, do we have an open spot?
Yes, we
There
do.
should be 5 members, 5.
Okay.
So anybody interested could send Ed an email or call you and express your interest, and you can lead them through the process, correct?
Okay.
Yes.
Not that I have anybody in mind, but be nice.
Okay.
The challenge is on.
All right. Any other issues? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
For a second.
Second.
All in favor? Don't have to roll this one, I don't believe.
Yeah, it's got to be roll call too.
Sorry,
All of them.
who seconded? Who did the second? Was Barbara? Barbara? Okay.
All right. Mary,
Aye.
Rachel,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
chair is aye.
So before you leave, just thanks to Barbara and Ken for coming back, and Mary and Rachel for joining us. Appreciate it.